Welcome to Podcast from the Pit. I'm Eric.
And I'm Casey.
And we are joined today by Roger Taft and Josh from After Action Report.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on.
Definitely. I just want to get one thing out of the way before we get going because we want to talk about this new Kickstarter you got going on. Just so you know, I am a fan of the work.
Good job.
Yeah. So I'm just not like, oh yeah, they want to come on. I mean, I am a fan. So
yeah. And I'm
well,
a
then
fan.
We have a conflict of interest right there off the bat.
That's how I roll.
I guess I'm the neutral guy then because I haven't picked up anything you all have done yet.
Uh-oh.
So
yeah,
sell it.
I was talking to Josh beforehand that I did discover you guys through Order About It.
Okay.
So that's why I picked up that Kickstarter.
Excellent.
And started going to your guys' panels at Joe Fest, and I think it's terrific work. So anything we can do to help out, let us know. And like Hillbilly says, sell it.
Sounds good.
Unfortunately, I missed you all at Joe Fest. This was my first Joe Fest this year.
You're probably overwhelmed.
And
it's really turned into a really awesome show. And, you know, Ed has really blown it up and done a good job of making it the must attend event for any G.I. Joe fan.
Yeah, I was in sensory overload.
It's easy to do there.
Yes.
Yeah, so much fun.
So
this was my fourth. Already got tickets for next year. Got my already book for next year.
Yep, same here.
But we'll be there with a table. So.
Yep, definitely.
I'll try to find you this time. So I probably walked right by you and never even realized it.
We're right across the street from it.
Yeah, I think the first, to kind of do the, like a recap of our history with Joe Fest is that, for After Action Report, Roger, this is when COVID was shutting everything down in 2020. Roger called me up, and him and I have known each other a long time and been a part, of the Joe community and, doing comics and things like that for a long time. He called me up, and so then we were like, well, let's go to Joe Fest. And, our very first Kickstarter, which you talked about a little bit there, appeared. And, that we basically had, a panel there, and we the Kickstarter started like 2-3 days just before the first Joe Fest in 2020. And so that was the kickoff and the start of the After Action Report. And now we're on our 7th Kickstarter. And we've pretty much been able to have one running at nearly every Joe Fest. We didn't have one running at this one, but now we got this book going here. But so just to kind of recap for any listeners who doesn't know, we finished 3 volumes that are comic guide. It's the volume 1, which is Marvel era, volume 2 is the Devil's Due era. That's like 2001 to 2008 with the Fun Publishing. And the volume 3 is the IDW era. So it's basically number 155.5 to 300. We have a character guidebooks called Command Files. And then another book called The History of number 21. And of course, any Joe fan knows that comic. And so we have that book. And now the current book is the checklist guidebook. So in the back of each one of the 3 volumes, we had a checklist. And this is where Roger, when he came up with the whole concept of our book, wanted to do the whole book this way, right? Like one book of all kind of a checklist. But, in order to actually make the books, we had to divide it up into areas. Yeah, see on his screen there. So so when that was the original intent of the concept of these guidebooks, was to be able to track your collection. Well, when you have 3 books now, you basically, you don't want to take 3 books to every convention or every shop where you're going. So now we're combining them, all the checklists, into this one book. There's a few articles in there, some biographies and things like that. And of course, the Kickstarter is currently active, so it's that. But now we're really mixing in Transformers too, because as we all know, that's the Transformers and G.I. Joe have been connected at the hip since the beginning of both. Well, actually, really both toys from the very beginning too.
Pretty much.
So that's kind of like the summary of After Action Report. It's like I said, now we're on our 6th Kickstarter, or no, this is the 7th Kickstarter. So ask away on questions, or Roger, what do you got to say?
Just to clarify, the original intent was the actual guidebook. The checklist was already going to be there, but I was going to put everything in the guidebook, which, it's already that thick. It would have been, I can't even get it on screen. It would have been like that thick if we did all of them in one guidebook.
Right, yeah.
But this Kickstarter is kind of just almost a field guide of the rest of it. It's a condensed version of it, so you don't have all that bulk with you. It's just cuts it down to just the list rather than the entire guide. So it makes it more portable, essentially.
Nice. Like I said, I got the first volume. Really need to pick up the rest.
Absolutely.
Can you get them on the? Do you have a website to get them off of? Or
AfterActionReport.net is the website. You can see that down here on Josh's name here. Without the Josh, just the After Action Report.
You actually stole my question.
Currently, you can order Volume 1, Volume 2, The Devil's Due Era, and The History of G.I. Joe number 21. The other books are being printed right now. There was a major disaster with the original print run, but insurance is covering that, and we're getting them back out. They just haven't gotten back to us yet. So
nice, yeah, because I'm really interested in the IDW. I love those comics.
Yeah,
and so many covers.
This is one of the printer proofs of Volume 3. With, you can see the artwork is on the back is by Brian Shearer, and then on the front is the Larry Hammond, with our 3 favorite characters in Vietnam. And then we have the character guidebook, Command Files, which is written by Greg Augustin. So those are the 2 that were basically lost in a shipment. Literally, I don't know what happened. They got lost. And they had to be reprinted. So that's Command Files. Oh, now I'm on the single screen. And then that's Volume 3. So those will be available when they're available. And then, of course, the number 21 book is available on a website. And this is just a whole book just on one comic book. We released this one in April. So that, we just keep making books about comics and everything. Ooh. And like the thing is that we have a lot of future plans coming for books, but we kind of got hung up with our 2 books getting delayed, Volume 3 and the Command File, so we had to kind of keep waiting for that. So we had to keep pressing forward, even though we haven't fulfilled those. But we're waiting for the new information on those to come in. It's been sparse on those, but we basically covered the comics from 1982 to 2022. Skybound is way too new to put that in a book. So we're basically covering everything up into IDW. And so the checklist book, like I said, is you go to the Kickstarter right now, is everything from 82 to 2022. So it's all the different publishers, from Marvel and Devil's Due and Dreamwave and IDW and all the little ones in between, like the Blackthorn. So, and the checklists there help you collect help you track your collection. That's really the concept of the books. You know what I mean? Like the Roger showed earlier, like the original design is, of the pictures of the covers, and then the checklist is in the back so that you can track it. But, when you get, 3 books, and that's 144 times 3. Yeah. So that's the original design, and that's what the guidebooks individually are filled with. So it tracks everything, all the different variants and versions this would be the Marvel one. So shows all the direct market and newsstand and Canadian price. And actually there was this thread on one of the Facebook. Somebody was asking, hey, what's the difference between a direct market and a newsstand? And so we were posting pictures of the page and explaining, like a little Spidey symbol versus a newsstand, the UPC code. So we really try to, and Roger did an amazing job on the original checklist in volume 1 of really getting into the details of all the little symbols on the covers. So you can really help determine between first print, second print, third print, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
cool.
And then we put the little different direct market symbols there.
Yeah. Because
there's a whole bunch of them, and then so that checklist that you see there, which is on screen right, is what this book is mostly made of. And so, now we're adding, like I said, we're adding in Transformers. So we're adding checklists for the Marvel Transformers, as well as the Dreamwave Transformers. And the other really awesome thing about this current book is that we also have the IDW continuity. So our other book, the volume 3 one, is just Larry Hama's 155 to 300 with the Tom Scully Transformers crossover book in there, but nothing else. So the whole, the continuity that started in 2009 ran till 2016. That ended up being the Hasbro universe combined kind of thing with Transformers and Mask and all that. That whole, we haven't even made guidebooks or anything like that, although we would like to in the future, and we'll probably try to get to them. But it's a lot of work, and we had a few other books planned.
Yeah, and it depends largely on interest in that. So
right.
And so
volume 3 had so many variant covers. Just covering Larry Hama's run was enough for the book.
Yeah.
If we do the same thing for all of IDW, that's going to be 3 volumes on its own.
I really need to get that one of the Marvel run.
Yeah,
because
that's definitely the most popular one. So.
Well, I'm trying to finish the first 155 issues.
Yeah,
nice.
And instead of just writing down what issues I'm missing, I can go in there, check off, and then if I'm at a show, I can just take that book, flip it open, see what ones I don't have.
Yep.
So that's a great idea.
Yeah, it even shows you the variants of all of them, so you can tell whether you got a first print, second print, third print, Canadian print, Australian print. It'll tell you all that. So
I know I have an issue of 21 that's been graded, and I think it has the symbiote Spider-Man suit.
Yeah.
Face on
that one.
That is likely a third print.
Really?
Potential it could be a second print, but
yeah,
that was a whole huge theory. That, and part of the this year, 2024 is actually the 40th anniversary of the number 21 book. So
there we go.
It was released in technically it was, there it is right there.
Yeah,
and we did
that third one right there.
Oh,
I'll have to take a picture and send it to you.
Yeah. The interesting thing with CGC is that they have they haven't been very good with getting the first and second and third printing of the number 21 correct. Literally, CGC has labeled some of their printings wrong, and that's actually one of the things that in the volume 1 book we touched upon was this mysterious 21 second printing. And actually it kind of was very much the inspiration for the me and Roger working together now, what, 5 years later, I guess, was we put together an article in 2020
4 years ago.
when everybody was shut down. We were asking people to go dig in their collection and look and see if we could figure out the mystery of the number 21 second printing. You lost me? What?
You're on there now. No, you're good. He was holding up pretty bad on my end.
Oh. So anyway, this hunt for the second printing, which originally we thought it was a number 21 with a black Spidey head on the cover that did not mark second printing in the bottom of the indica on the first page, and then with Tommy Hazelton, a Joe fan who had been active on the Devil's Due forums way back in the early 2000s. It's kind of had been his obsession with collecting number 21 and all the different variants and versions. And so after about 5 years, we finally figured it out. And like I said, in the number 21 book here, we published 12 pages of our history of hunting for the second printing. And now officially we can say that the second printing is actually in a bag. Oh, I should have had it with me. It's in one of my boxes. I know where it is. But so the official second printing of number 21 is a white Spidey head in a bag. If you take it out of the bag, it blends in with every other one, but in the bag, because in that bag are a second printing of number 22 and number 23. So it took a while. It took some money too to figure out and get those ones and find it in a bag. But so we solved a big, huge mystery. It's like, so the whole Holy Grail comic book now is a number 21 in a bag with a white Spidey head.
Whenever I first picked up my very first G.I. Joe comic, it was the 21 in a bag. With 22 and 23 in it.
Yeah. So that was probably, yeah.
And I got home. I got it at Hex Department Store in Spencer, West Virginia. And I got home. I wasn't very old. And only reason I got it had my favorite Joe on the cover.
Yeah.
And so I get it home and I rip the bag open. Me and my brother lay down on the floor to go to read it, and there's no words. And I'm like, what the heck? So we're making up the dialogue as we go.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was like 84, 85 before I realized Snake Eyes couldn't talk. So, but I was just gobsmacked with that work in that book. And I was like, ooh, this is amazables.
That's a great word, amazables. I like that word. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the things with the number 21 is that it has now become one of the most iconic comic books in all of history. I mean, if you date back to Action Comics and Superman at the beginning in the late 30s with Batman, like usually number 21 is kind of ranked up there in that category, and just not only because of the innovativeness of being a single issue, standalone issue, all quiet with no words, which is rare. I mean, they've done a lot of different things since then, in homage to that. But that book is, that comic is influential, and it's probably why Larry Hama's in the Eisner Hall of Fame. I mean, just that he's able to pull off that one issue, and
whenever you try to do that again, imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Yeah.
And they'll never be able to pull it off again as well done. I mean, there's been, I think Larry did a second one with Storm Shadow.
Yeah, number 85, I think, or is it 84?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was just as good.
Yeah.
So, but it's coming from the master. So
Yeah.
And he did the yearbook number 3 also, which was the silent one. So
Okay.
you know, and you know the thing is that, you know, for Generation X people, you know, all of us were in that area. You know, we came into the toys and the comics, you know, or in the cartoons at that, you know, middle sweet spot in the middle 80s, and number 21 hit right at that time and brought the rivalry of Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow together.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, that rivalry makes it a key issue, so all these key collectors who don't give a shit about GI Joe but they want the most important comic books have to get number 21, because, you know, most of the time people have number 21 in their collection, if, you know, like a Green Lantern fan, but they still have, you know, GI Joe number 21. So, you know, that's where the comic books are very important in GI Joe history. I mean, you know, I'm not on top of the fact that Larry created the characters, and, you know, that's the main reason why we all really like GI Joe is the characters. I mean, you know, ultimately, yeah, if you're a military fan or whatever, sci-fi fan, somewhere in between, but ultimately, you know, and, you know, the comic books have been like, you know, the staple. You know, they're, you know, I think I just saw a solicit for number 310 or something like that, you know. So,
Wow.
you know, and he's on his 5th publisher now. So,
yeah,
if you count the Devil's Due Disavowed, you
what
know,
I'm
That's
what
Yeah.
I'm curious to see is if they make it to 1,000.
well, yeah. I mean, by then, I don't think Hama will be around, and maybe we won't even be around, but they might make it to 1,000. But
Well-
and our guidebooks will help you track them all.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm going at is like the big guns. Like Batman made it to 1,000.
Yeah.
Superman. I
Yeah.
mean, then you'd
Well,
have
they had a bit
GI
of
Joe
lead
up
time
there.
on us.
Do what?
They had a bit of a lead time on us.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that would be it. The book's so iconic, is what I guess I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is it sets up there with the big guns, or what people call the big guns, or the big two. I don't know where Spider-Man's at right now. I don't know.
It's over 700, I think, or no. I think, yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think they peaked at like 750 and then rebooted or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure about
And
that.
I hate it whenever they do that. And I like that they took off with 155.5 and
Yeah.
then shot off again.
Yep.
Keep that continuity going. Don't reboot it with number 1. And
I'm kind of surprised that Skybound didn't start with 300.5 or
Yeah.
or 299.5 or whatever.
that would have been cool.
Yeah.
But they were so clever though, because when they released 301, they did the 3 and the 0 small, and then they had the 1 really big, and it said 301st issue, and it looked like it was a first issue. I thought that
That is cool.
the little design, you know, and of course, you know, Skybound has really brought GI Joe comic books back into the fold, selling like over 100,000 for all these issues. You know what I mean? And that's the Energon universe that's really selling like crazy. And of course, that's a crossover with Transformers. You know, a whole new section of GI Joe that's brand new, and you know they're doing all kinds of cool stuff with those. I don't know if anybody. I know Roger's not. You guys up to date on the Skybound books?
I'm aware of them, but I'm not up to date on them. No, I'm gonna have
Yes,
to wait.
I read them. They're good.
Yeah. So
The highlight for me of the new Skybound is my understanding Mercer beat the snot out of Duke. I'm not a Duke fan, but anyhow.
Well, yeah, you know, this is kind of the cool thing about the, you know, the Energon universe, right? Is that they can do whatever they want, you know, Cobra Law, like, you know, like it's mixed and everything like that. And it's like, you know, they can totally do whatever they want. Whereas like, you know, with Larry Hama's writing his own thing, he still kind of has some limits, you know, on what he writes that, you know, story wise that the fans want to follow. Although this whole zombie thing is a little odd, but still going on. But you know, so you know the you know the and for me personally, I'm a comic guy first, right? I'm not a toy collector. I have some G.I. Joe toys, and I have my figures I have from when I was a kid, but I don't collect toys. So that really kind of puts me in you know, like the minority as a Joe collector, even though my comic collection is massive. But you know, so I've always been that kind of, you know, odd collector who's like, I'm just about the comics. I just want the comics. So you know, and Roger has been like a collector of everything. Like his collection is like, you know, Halloween masks and all kinds of stuff, and as well as toys too. You know, so it kind of as a team, as a team of writers, that's really where we've focused. But you know, Roger has a big comic collection too. So,
and that's what's great about the G.I. Joe family. I'm not going to call it a community. And because we all fit in. You
Right.
might be a comic collector, you might be a toy collector, you might collect everything.
Yep.
And we all mesh. So
yeah.
or you might even collect the 12-inch Adventure Team or the original. But we all get along, we all mesh, we all are part of this happy family. Sometimes we're dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Like every family. And sometimes we see people at power cons and say, hey, let's have this guy on the show. And he never leaves. Casey. That's how I came on the show. It's worked out for me too. I mean, this is so fun being on here, and I get to meet cool people like you all. So
it's for the best.
And I apologize again for not seeing you all at Joe Fest. Or I would have definitely hung out your booth and tried to make it rain.
Well, there was a lot to see at Joe Fest. There is every year. So
And I say, you know, we already got our booth and got our hotel rooms all booked, so you know we'll be there.
I will too. Lord willing, and the water don't rise.
Yeah.
This was the first time I missed your guys' panel. You had a panel this year, right?
Combined with the
Yeah, I could not find a good listing of when all the panels were, so I missed.
Neither could
I
we.
would say 80% of the ones I want to see, because panels are some of the funnest things for me. So I find stuff. Sorry for the dogs. That's why I keep muting.
As I recall, this year we weren't even sure if we had a panel until about 2 hours before the actual panel.
Yeah. Yeah, they had shuffled things around, and they're like, all right, you're on. And we're like, oh, okay. We're here.
On our way. Just like this morning, Casey messaged me. He's like, are you awake? And the struggle was real. I work evenings.
Yeah.
So it was after midnight before I finally got to sleep, and I was struggling this morning.
Oh.
Well, like I said, you know, I'm on the sun's finally coming up here. I'm in California, so it was 6 a.m. The alarm was beeping at me at 5:30. I'm like, what the hell? Oh yeah, I got a podcast. I got to get up.
and you look perfectly normal for somebody in California.
Well, I do have long hair, you know, so it gets a little crazy.
I'm jealous. I have hardly any hair on top of my bald nugget. But
that's a common affliction amongst collectors our age.
Yeah. I blame my mom's family, so and my wife.
My family doesn't bald, but we do go gray early.
Yeah.
I'd rather go gray. I'm bald, so
yeah.
But
well, I'm getting highlights in my beard.
Yeah, I got the beard highlights too. I don't have too much gray hair up here, a little bit, although I'm starting to get some this year. With the lost books have certainly given me some gray hairs, but you know, generally it's part of getting older, right? But all of a sudden we're a lot wiser.
Yeah. So Do you know when the lost books will be available, or
When they're available, that's the answer we can give.
okay?
Yeah, the current book is, from what we know, the current volume 3 is printed, and we're just waiting on it to actually get a spot and shipping.
Okay.
So if it
That would
if it
also
ends up
include
on a
command
plane-
file.
Yeah, if it ends up on a plane in the next few days, and we'll have it in 2 weeks, but
Okay.
will it get on that plane? We don't really know. We
Right.
won't know until they actually tell us it's on a plane. So
Okay.
So that kind of leads to the current Kickstarter and the actual book. So the number 21 book, we used a different printer and a different company, and we used it's called Print Ninja. And so we're doing the same thing with this, the current Kickstarter, the G.I. Joe Transformers checklist book. We have a whole different printer and a whole different setup, and basically I'm the main person in charge dealing with getting it all set up and stuff like that. So in terms of like what happened with the previous books and the previous Kickstarters, that won't happen this time. So, to reassure any backers that are listening that the company Print Ninja, this is just what they do. They're just a printing company, and, they're not a publisher per se. And so that they've given us good deals and things like that. And, the turnaround time is very quick because the book is almost done. So, you can have faith that, we'll be able to get the current Kickstarter done, because basically the number 21 book, we ran that Kickstarter in the spring, and it was in hand by the end of May. So it'll be kind of the same thing. This Kickstarter will run until September 19th, and it'll probably be in hand by beginning of December. So a good Christmas present. Help you track your collection all in one book.
Heck yeah.
And the main difference between Print Ninja and Rising Sun for us is that Rising Sun had to negotiate with printing companies to actually get it printed, and they had to make relationships with those companies and deal with whatever barriers there were. Print Ninja has their own printing factory in China. They don't have any of that to deal with. They just say, here's the new order, get it done, and it gets done. So
yeah,
there's no barrier there like there was. And I'm not saying that's different for Rising Sun. It's just normal for the printing process. But with Print Ninja, we don't have to deal with that.
Cool.
So
can't wait to see it hit.
Yeah. As far as Kickstarters go, I've been in quite a few lately, or not lately, but I think if I get it in 3 years, I'm happy. Because it seems like everything just takes 3 years.
Yeah.
It takes what it takes. Yeah.
And I've never done a Kickstarter. I was on the verge of doing the Airwolf one, and I didn't do it. But
now you're sad that you don't have an Airwolf in your collection.
well,
that one failed, I think, didn't it? I think they had massive. That's one of the few Kickstarters that actually, they didn't fulfill, I think, right?
Yeah. They got the money, but they never produced the Airwolf, which is sad. That would have been such a cool. I'm on a big Airwolf kick right now because I'm old, and I think if they would ever do an Airwolf toy line, it ought to be in O-ring 3.75 inch scale.
Yeah.
And remember, have a big G.I. Joe down the side of it.
Well, for a long time, like I said, I live in Los Angeles now, but for a long time, I lived in the Moab area, which is, the headquarters for Airwolf was in Monument Valley on those red rocks.
Yeah.
You always landed on the top of it. So that wasn't that far away from where I lived, and I'm always like, when I was a kid, I didn't even know that area. I didn't even know what that was. It was just, John Wayne Western kind of stuff. But then after living there for 6 years, I was like, oh man, that's a perfect advertisement for where I live. But it was such a cool concept to be able to, fly that helicopter down into a base in those mesas. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for that show. It's just.
Yeah, that's a show I barely remember, but I do remember the playground debate of whether Airwolf or Blue Thunder was cooler.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, I liked them both, but Airwolf would have smoked Blue Thunder.
I like the look of Blue Thunder better, though.
Yeah, that looked almost like a dragonfly.
Yeah.
But I used my dragonfly as Airwolf, and and also used it as Blue Thunder. So
That makes sense. I remember a friend of mine had the Blue Thunder toy, and we were going to trade for it. And I was deep in negotiation with it, and almost had it. And his father walked in and was like, "What the hell are you doing? You're not going to trade that away."
He's like, "Shut up."
I bought that. You're not going to just give it to somebody else.
What were you trading out of your collection, Roger?
It was probably a Dragonhawk and a Dragonfly and a few other things, but I know I was close, but we never did finish the deal. So,
man,
that's probably a pretty hard toy to find these days. I bet.
What was that?
I bet you the Blue Thunder toy is pretty hard to find.
Yeah. I see maybe one every other year at a toy show.
I've never seen one in my life. I didn't know they even made it until recently.
Yeah, I just recently found out they made it in 2 different scales. Like
really,
one closer to the size of the Dragonfly, and then one a little bit bigger. At least that's what I understood. Huh. I was surprised to learn that there were 2 different sizes for it. So I have no idea why. I think they both came with figures. So.
I might have to check in on that.
Yeah. I'm definitely not a Blue Thunder expert, though, so I could be a little off on that.
Well, I mean, I'm not either. It's just, I think it'd be cool to add to the collection again, have G.I. Joe down the side of it. I mean, how cool would it be to have that backing up Shockwave?
Yeah.
Especially his tank Shockwave.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like now we have 3, I think, Joe vehicles that actually transform into Transformers, and that's like there's the All Striker, his tank, and the Thunder Machine. And it took 40 years almost for them to actually do that. You know what I mean? Like these two franchises have been crossed over since 1987 officially. And it took that long, and now there's a movie coming, so there'll be a lot more Joe toys that transform, and I guess the movie's in 2026 or something like that. But to kind of get the whole crossover going, I mean, like if they're making a feature movie that's a crossover between G.I. Joe and Transformers, they are reading the comic books. This is where the influential comic books for both Transformers and G.I. Joe come in, that it wasn't just a toy. I mean, these comics and the stories and the characters really appeared there. And so again, that's part of the whole lore of both Transformers and G.I. Joe, because Transformers appeared in the Real American Hero run, you know what I mean? And then of course G.I. Joe appeared in Transformers Generation 2 comic book. That lasted like 12 issues, but that was in the early 90s, that full blown crossover. But like some people have always been like, well, I don't have those issues in my collection, or they're not part of my continuity. And it's like, well, I don't know, man. The Transformers are in the G.I. Joe continuity.
Yeah.
So So that's kind of part of the idea for this Kickstarter checklist book, is we're adding in the Marvel Transformers comics and all that stuff. So it's literally both franchises in all one book, so you can track there. And I don't know how many people, like I've started to pick up Transformers books, and I actually recently just went on a kick to get all the Dreamwave ones. I got most of those now. But I had all the crossovers with G.I. Joe, but I didn't actually have Transformers comics. So I've been kind of reading those, and they're actually really fun. I have to say that it's like kind of fresh for me to read those comics, and I know the characters, but I hadn't actually really read the stories. So it's pretty fun. I have to say it's a nice, new, invigorating thing to be able to collect. Because of course, like we were talking earlier, the Energon universe is such a deep deep dive into all these different things and Transformers and G.I. Joe that it helps to have read those, started to read those older ones.
Yeah, and soon we'll have the Triple T.
Yep.
That transforms.
Is
I
that
can't
the
remember.
next one?
Yeah, Sergeant Cup was the Triple T.
Yeah. I couldn't remember who it was, but I knew it was a Triple T.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah,
Would it ever transform in my collection? No. But
yeah,
it would be cool to have. It's out of my price range, but maybe one day.
I've been working on transforming Soundwave into the Thunder Machine or vice versa, but he's like stuck in a point where I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll leave him half transformed and put some of his accessories, plug in a little spots, and I was like, all right, he's half and half. He's sitting on a shelf, half transformed. I was like, that's perfect.
That's because the Dreadnoks don't take care of him very well.
Exactly. Exactly. Or the owner, me, doesn't know how to transform him.
That's more likely. Yeah.
Whenever I got Jetfire for Christmas, whenever I was little, and I was just blown away. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to transform him, and I can't get him transformed. I worked with him for like 2 hours, and I couldn't get him to transform. So I'm like, okay, I got to set him down, take a break. And on the car ride home, it finally snapped back into place. And I was like, yes! I figured out what I was doing wrong. And I was like, it's like angels coming out of him going, oh. But
yeah,
sorry.
My collectible shop, a parent was showing his kid a transformer. It was one of the new modern ones that really takes a long time to transform.
Yeah.
And the kid was like, what's it transform into? And I was like, kid, we can do it, but it's going to take like 2 hours.
Yeah.
We don't have the time to do that right now. So
yeah, that's one thing I don't like about the new Transformer toys. It takes forever, and I just don't have the patience or the intellect to do it. I'm like,
but they look better.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The original Megatron was ridiculous. Not great.
Right.
Now they've combined Optimus Prime with a Rubik's Cube, so it's
Rubik's Cube transform and roll out.
Right. Yeah, actually, for the Kickstarter, our stretch goal, the final stretch goal, we have several of them, is that if we can hit 25,000, which we've hit on other Kickstarters, so we feel pretty confident we'll get there. Although we've kind of stalled a little bit here, but we still have a month. The final is that we're going to add the 30 pages of the actual IDW 2005 Transformers continuity into the book as a checklist. So that, of course, Transformers or IDW had the license before they had the G.I. Joe license. And so they had a few years on it. But then, of course, they combined that continuity with the IDW continuity into the Hasbro universe. So they had a whole, almost 10 years before they of Transformers comic books in one continuity. So we're going to put that into the book too. But of course that increases the page count. So we have to, hit our goal there to get to that page count. But right now our Transformers G.I. Joe crossover checklist book is about 115 pages, planning to go to around 144. And I mean, it's literally just checklists, and there are articles in there, but I mean, that's just shows you how deep both these franchises are with comics. And you know what I mean? As a comic collector, it's like, man, I tell you, my bill is about $200 every time I go to the comic shop with all these covers.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I'm behind on Skybound.
Well, and that's kind of the reason why I quit buying comics. Plus they was going in a different direction than what I wanted to see, and it just got me out of the groove. And so, but I'm really missing out on the Skybound G.I. Joe. But
And the Transformers is great.
Yeah,
Very
it just
brutal.
won.
So
It
brutal.
won an Eisner Award.
Yes.
really,
Yeah, for like best continuing series or something like that. I mean, like Transformers comic book in 2024 winning like best series. I mean, like that's nuts.
that's
And it
awesome.
won the best writer too, right?
I think he did.
Joshua
Yeah,
Williams. Yeah.
yeah.
Who's writing it?
Joshua Williams, I want to say, but I
Okay.
could be butchering it.
Yeah.
But it is really good.
It is. I mean, I tell you, there's been a couple of times when I read that comic and he'll have like a cool scene with a Transformers or a Joe doing something. Well, there's not any Joes in that one. But like Transformers doing something, and it'll just be like, yeah, all right. Like, you read a comic and you go, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like the issue, Larry kills Snake Eyes. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I read it and I was like, I get to that part where he like gets blown up. I'm like, whoa, what just happened? So I go back like 3 or 4 pages and I start reading it again, and I'm like, what did I just see? I couldn't pick up on it, so I go back and I'm reading it again. I'm like, oh my gosh, they just killed Snake Eyes.
I know.
Oh my gosh, they just killed Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
And then it dawned on me again. I was like, hold.
Well, technically, there's 3 Snake Eyes now, so.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if Eric meant to do that pun, but he said that just before he was coughing, he goes, it dawned on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That Snake Eyes was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that. Excuse my cough. I don't
okay.
know what happened there, but
You were so overcome with emotion that
yeah. I was fighting the tears back. But don't worry, I'm alive.
Good.
But yeah, I was like, what in the world? What possessed him? And then I'm thinking, okay, this is war. People are going to die.
Mhm.
And I like Larry's take on that, because you aren't promised everything.
Right.
You're not promised tomorrow.
Nope.
And whenever he killed off everybody with the Saw Viper, I'm like, makes sense.
Yep.
That somebody would do that. And then why would the enemy be mad that you killed off their enemy?
Yeah.
But and then they killed Snake Eyes, and then they started with Sean Collins being Snake Eyes. I was like, okay, this is a little much. I think if they's going to kill Snake Eyes, they should have left him dead. Kind of like
Throwdown. He wasn't
Yeah.
Snake Eyes.
He was
Well-
Snake Eyes in disguise. So,
and then like with Superman, they killed Superman.
Yep.
And they brought him back, and they broke Batman's back. I'm a huge Batman fan. Don't get me wrong. They should have left his back broken.
Right.
He is the world's great. He could have been the
killed him one time too.
Yeah. And well, they threw him back in time, but they should have left Batman's back broken. He could have been the new Oracle.
Or he could have been
Because-
Iron Bat.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He is the world's greatest detective. Dick Grayson should have been put into the Batman role, and Bruce should have been still been the detective and kind of like guiding Dick. And I understand why they brought Snake Eyes back and why they put Throwdown in as Snake Eyes, but
Don Marino gets the
brainwave scanner.
Yeah. Actually, that was one of the articles that's in the volume 3 book is about the brainwave scanner. and how important it has been to GI Joe. I mean, it's still being used, you know, in the current issues. You know, and it started in issue 9, and it's like, you know, that, you know, 40 years of the brainwave scanner. You know, and so it's kind of like, you know, Hammond's go-to, and we did interview him for the volume 3 book, and he basically said, you know, in Larry Hama style, he goes, well, how many times have they destroyed the Avengers headquarters? You know what I mean? Like, they just keep going back and doing the same thing. He's like, I keep going back to the brainwave scanner because it works. You know what I mean?
Right,
it's like, you know, I mean, it creates interesting storylines, and, you know, like it hasn't gone away. I mean, he just keeps going. And, you know, I actually at one point was tracking all the different characters that had been put into the brainwave scanner. You know, pretty much every major one except for Scarlet has been in there. I mean, even Roadblock recently was in a version of it. When Snake Eyes died, he was trying to control Serpentor, you know, because Roadblock, you know, so in the G.I. Joe version of it. But, like, you know, I mean, all the major characters have been scanned, and, you know, like even the Dreadnoks were in Snake Eyes' head and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, you know, and you know, it falls into that whole category of like, okay, do you go with it or do you not? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like do you want to, you know, fall for that part of the comic book story, because, you know, it is a comic book. I mean, it doesn't have to be real, but you know, one of the things I was doing some research on was that they actually do have brainwave scanners now that, like, you can, you know, plug things in and put them on your head and it'll read your waves in your brain. And it's like, you know, when Hammond made that up in the 80s, I mean, maybe the concept was there, but like now you can buy it on Amazon.
You can buy everything on Amazon.
Yeah. So
I just picked up my own Terradrome a few weeks ago. It's huge.
So again, the comics, you know, it kind of influenced by the world, you know what I mean? But based going in reverse, you know, whereas in the comics verse, in the world, vice versa. But so, you know, and you know, I guess the big thing with G.I. Joe comics is that, like, you know, they've been written by basically one guy. And that's pretty rare. I mean, you know, you look at like the history of comics, and I mean, Todd McFarlane with Spawn is kind of in that same category. You know, he's basically just been writing Spawn and hasn't really too many other people. You know, Larry's in the same category. But like, you get all these other. I mean, like Chris Claremont wrote X-Men for a long time, but there was a big history before and there's a big history after. You know, but Spawn and G.I. Joe are pretty much just written by, you know, one guy. You know, for the main continuity, you know, other continuities. So that makes G.I. Joe pretty rare in the comic book world.
That it does. That it does.
Yeah, but I was a huge fan of when the reboot came with Blaylock.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was great. But I mean, to me, Larry Hama's run is just continuous. I think a lot of people call it the Hamaverse.
Yeah,
it doesn't cross over with any other G.I. Joe story, which is cool. It's its own thing, and it's fantastic. It always has been. When I was a kid, I based my play patterns for my Joes from the comic book, not the cartoon.
Nice.
I think a lot of us did.
Yeah, the cartoon was fun, but it was very campy.
Yeah,
and the comic books was just amazing.
Well, that's what Kirk Bazigian was intending to do to all of us kids. I forget what his quote is. Hold on, I'm pulling the book. He's got a really great quote that he gave us. Oh, it says regarding G.I. Joe and talking about like, you know, the comic, you know, and all this, like how kids played with everything. He said it was a battle plan, both brilliantly conceived and diabolically executed. And he got us. I mean, here we are in our 50s now, still collecting toys and, you know, playing with toys and playing with comics and everything. So, you know, that synergy just worked. I mean, it just worked. And that's what makes G.I. Joe so awesome. Really makes it awesome.
So do you think that on this new Snake Eyes run, at some point where he's a clone, he'll just melt.
Yeah.
Well, then you just clone him again.
Right. But wouldn't that be kind of cool? In the middle of battle, he has an arm fall off, and he's like, "What happened?" And then they realize that he's deteriorating, and the clone can't hold it together. And
All right, there we go. That's the next storyline.
he's like G.I. Joe's version of Wolverine.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, I mean, that's what the thing is that now Snake Eyes talks in the comics. I mean, that Larry hasn't given him a whole lot of words, but when he says something, I'm always like, what?
Yeah.
But it's a clone that can talk. Why? You know what I mean? And it's like, I want to have a issue where Snake Eyes just starts jabbering away and is like telling stories and all these things, and it's like, give us a lot of word balloons of Snake Eyes talking. I mean, he's finally able to talk. Let's hear him talk instead of one or two words.
But I think that's
been holding this in. I gotta talk now.
Yeah.
I think that's part of his character, because he was always very quiet, like in Vietnam.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that might be just part of his character, where he don't talk a lot, and he might be playing him off as like, when this guy talks, you listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just seems like he'd have something to say after so many years.
Yeah.
Maybe
Like-
he could always talk throughout the entire run. He just didn't want to, and he used it as an excuse. Now that he's a clone, he doesn't have the excuse anymore.
Be like, Scarlett, you really want to cook that again tonight?
So we got a little slideshow, which I'm not the best at making them, but I'm gonna throw some pictures up and you guys can talk about them.
Sounds good.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Go for it. Slide away. Oh, that was practically the first image we did for this. That was like the promo image we were using when we did the early shows, and I think we used it on the Kickstarter that way and spread it around. And that was the promise we were making, was everything you ever wanted to know about G.I. Joe comics. So
That's really cool.
We're still trying to fulfill that. Now we've moved on to Transformers and the crossovers, so that's all part of the same thing. But yeah, we with 3 books done, 1982 to 2022, covers it all.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Guess I'm going backwards. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's okay. That's that was basically the 4 books as we had them about a year ago. The 2 of those are the ones that are missing and being reprinted, but that's basically what we're putting out right there.
Yeah, but the good news is they are being reprinted and they will be fulfilled. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
Like I say, as Kickstarter, you'll get it when you get it, and it'll be what you pay for. So,
if not more. So far, almost universally, everybody that's gotten the books have been impressed by how much more is in there than they expected. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and the character guidebook, which is on the previous picture, the command files, I mean, like that's just characters, and so there's a huge comic connection, but that guidebook is 180 pages, and it's the first half of G.I. Joe. So After Action Report is kind of branched off into characters away from the comics, but it's all part of the same thing. And there's 2 more volumes of that coming.
Nice.
The command files. So
I like that.
Yeah.
That.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Roger.
I think we used that as the main image for the first Kickstarter. We did later in the Kickstarter. That's what it was. But that was Rod Wigham's sketch for the cover. Wasn't even the finished cover. That was just what he was proposing for the cover. So, how good of an artist he is just right out of the gate, let alone actually finishing the work.
Yeah, it's very cool.
There we go. That's the current one. So
That's cool.
Current logo, current Kickstarter.
When Roger came up with this one, I was like, how many fonts are on there?
All
I
of
think
them.
every other word is a different font. I was like, that's awesome. It works great.
Well, they emphasize different things for each font. So,
Yeah,
Yep.
very cool.
Yep.
And I'm not the biggest Transformers fan, but
I'm not
the
either.
Energon comic is making me more of a Transformers fan.
yeah.
So I would definitely be interested in checking this out for sure.
Well,
Absolutely.
like I said, for that, you just go to Kickstarter and type in G.I. Joe or Transformers or After Action Report, and it'll pop right up. And it's active for another 28 days. So if you're listening and you want to support us, go be a backer.
Yep. Jump in on this.
Well,
Jump in on this right here.
Well, one of the plans too is if we can hit I think it's the $20,000 stretch goal. The goal for the book is $8,000, which is enough for us to pay for printing of the book. And of course, when you go beyond that, then you can get other extra things. Is we're going to try to have Robert Atkins do a cover for the book. We've had original covers done by different artists, and Robert Atkins is super well known for G.I. Joe, but he's done a little bit of Transformers here and there. But so we're going to get him to do that original cover for the book.
He's an amazing artist.
That he is.
Yeah.
Out of the whole IDW run, him and S.L. Gallant are my two artists that stick out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty prominent, both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gallant had like a 10-year run or something, or maybe 8 years, something like that.
Yeah, I heard a stat one time that he's done more G.I. Joe comics with Larry Hama than anybody else. I'm not sure if that's true.
We were finagling the logo at this point. Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah. This is one of the early logos that we were finagling. We were just trying to figure out what the initial logo was going to look like, but we still use it from time to time.
Yeah, this is all Roger's work. It's all Roger's work.
I like it whenever you use all the fonts.
Yeah. Well, I try to be pretty consistent. After Action Report is my version of the Hauser font, the G.I. Joe font.
Yeah.
I put that together. I built it myself way before I even knew a Hauser font existed. So that was my interpretation of it. And then
It looks good.
Well, thank you. Then for the G.I. Joe part of it, I always use the pencil font for that.
You did good, kid.
Yeah,
this one's the second printing for G.I. Joe for the volume 1. The third book that's lost in the printing nightmare. But this one does have updates from the original. Nothing drastic, but corrects a lot of typos and corrects just a lot of little things in there. So it is an upgrade from the first print.
So that's one of the rewards that you can get on the Kickstarter. It's an all-in. You get all 6 books. Obviously 5 are finished, and the G.I. Joe crossover checklist book will be finished at the end of the Kickstarter. And then, of course, when Volume 3 and Command Files arrive, they would be sent out too. So that's like our 6 books.
Nice.
Technically, we've had 7 Kickstarters because the Volume 1 we've almost sold out of the first printing, and then as Roger was just talking about, we had a second printing made, and of course, as we talked about earlier in this episode, second printings are a big deal.
Yeah.
So, but we did get. Oh yeah, so there's Roger's great work again with adding in the scale of Transformers versus G.I. Joe. Because that's what I hope in the feature film that they make in 2026 is that like the G.I. Joes just kind of like climb around on the Transformers, and because then you deal with the scale. Like in the movies, that like Optimus Prime is so big, but they don't interact. They interact in terms of voice and all, but like. I'd love to just see a G.I. Joe sitting right on the shoulder, firing off, using, Optimus Prime's head as a shield or something like that.
That'd be cool.
And like this image here, this is from the Devil's Due era. Was a Graham Cracker exclusive, but Scarlett's sitting on Bumblebee's shoulder. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that Bumblebee movie, they kind of had a little bit of similar kind of like interactions where the character was a little bit more interacting with the inside the Transformer and dealing with that. Yeah. So, but I mean, just make the crossover movie that's coming, like just an action movie, skip all the story and just have them fight.
Yep.
We definitely want to see that scale interaction. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I went and watched the first Transformers movie, and I was motion sick whenever I left the theater.
Yeah, understandable. So, those are the. That's not all of the prints because we've done more prints since then, but that's the prints of the front and back covers. Basically, the raw artwork without the logos and everything. But you can get those. You can get those on the website, or you can get those when you're at shows with us and add to your art collection.
I say they will be. I think there's a 23,000 stretch goal to get all that. It'll be at this point now. I think we have like 13 original pieces of art or something like that, or prints.
Yeah, I think it's 10 right now.
10. Yeah, 10. Because we had for the number 21 book, Brian Sauer of Assembly Required did our cover with Snake Eyes on it, just about to jump out of the C-130. And then Mark Pennington did the Command Files. It's actually a wraparound cover. So that's the Command File, and then he did it's on the back. And so he'll be doing another one for Command Files 2, Volume 2, another wraparound. So that and then of course the Volume 3 has Larry's, and then Brian Shearer, who also worked on the book for about 10 years. And so talking about Brainwave Scanner and Dawn and all the Snake Eyes, that was the artwork there for that one. So we have prints of all that available. Very much a part of our books is these original art.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get we still got two more. Trying to figure out how to add them back up there. I'm not the best at this, so we'll just go full screen on these last couple.
That'll work. Mm-hmm. And all of them are done by actual people that have worked on G.I. Joe in one form or another. So it's not fan art. It's actual, real artwork for G.I. Joe guys.
Right.
Yeah. So what's on the screen there is one of the other rewards. You can get the 3 comic guides as well as the checklist. And what's in the back of those 3 books is actually in the combined current Kickstarter checklist. So instead of having to have 3 books, you now all have 1 book for helping you collect your comics and track everything. And that's the new checklist guidebook will be what you take to the shows and cons to help you learn it all. But like I said, when we came up with the original idea, the book would have been 700 pages, if we did it all. So in reality, we had to divide it up into the different eras, which you see on the screen there, the 3 eras. And so now we'll move on past that, but the checklist guidebook now is intended to kind of combine all that and have it all in one book. So because that's what the thing is with guidebooks, and when Roger came up with this idea and pitched it to me, I mean, he had a whole ton of. I've been to his house, and he's got like a whole bookcase of guidebooks from everything. I mean, from all kinds of stuff. And it's like, the guidebook aspect, in collecting comics is something that is like, kind of a standard thing. I mean, I have on my phone and my computer, I can, log in and collect, and I have all my whole collection on the computer. But I still find like, it's really hard to keep track of what you have.
Yes, it is.
And that's really what we're trying to do with this book is, give the fans and everybody a resource for G.I. Joe comics. And I mean, there's a lot of G.I. Joe fans out there, and most of them are all toys, and there's a lot of really great toy books out there for James Cavanaugh did some really good books, and of course the Belmo books. So the toys are covered, and of course Carson with his massive book, and Dan Kay with his book. So they kind of cover everything, and it's like about the only book left to do is a cartoon book.
Yeah. But what I find funny is when we pitch our book to people at the shows, there's that percentage of people that reply back, well, that's a great idea, but I'm waiting for them to do the same thing with the toys. And I'm like, they've done that multiple times with the toys. It's just go on Amazon, you'll find it. Go on eBay, you'll find it. So
just go down a row. There's Dan. Go talk to Dan.
Yeah, exactly.
I was lucky and found the Mark Blemo book on the shelf. So that's a high dollar book now.
Yeah. $100 book easily.
3, but 2 has been elusive for.
So, but this is something I need. So I'll need to check in with you all, and just so I can get my collection in line.
Yeah.
And really, this is the first time anybody's done a book like this. There's been guides on comics. There's been Overstreet where it covers everything, but it doesn't get into the details of everything. It just does the broad strokes. And there's been like DC Comics put out a famous covers book where it just kind of hit the high points on the covers throughout their decades of printing, but it didn't get into the details. And you'll get like I've got a Spider-Man book right here. It's basically Spider-Man, and it goes into it doesn't get into the specifics of each issue or what's actually out there. It just kind of gives you a broad overview of the comics. And this focuses on what's actually out there, what you can actually find, what you can't find because it's so rare. So it tells you what you need to still keep looking for that other books just don't do that.
We send collectors down rabbit holes that they don't want to go down, but when they go down it, they love it.
Yep.
I'm a rabbit hole guy. I'll go down them as long as I think it's gonna be fun. That's me.
I'm getting ready to jump down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Another interesting thing I find is when we give the pitch to people at shows, there are people that I don't even have to finish the pitch. They're like, I'm in, give me the books. I understand. I get it. And then other people that I give them the whole pitch and they seem interested. And then they ask me something like, so did you do the artwork for it? And I'm like, no, it's a guidebook to the comics, not art. It's not fan artwork. It's a guidebook. And it's like, where's the disconnect? What did I say that made you believe I made a comic book here? So
I was at a convention out here in California, and I was in Artist Alley, and I was watching this girl. She was going to each booth, right? And I don't know, she's 20, 22, just normal looking girl. And she stopped at the booth and she asked a few questions, and I was like, well, are you interested in G.I. Joe? And she goes, to be 100% honest, no, but I would like to know about your book. She didn't buy one. I explained it. She's like, well, thank you very much for telling me that, and moved on. But I was like, it doesn't appeal to everybody, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, the fact is that she was honest like that, and the one of the other things is that, so earlier we mentioned Order of Battle. Jason's son, Alexander, has been, a big part of the Joe Fest. He's always running around there, and him and his long hair. But I think it was in 2021, I worked out a deal with him to be my marketing guy. So he'd run around the Joe Fest. We had these little dog tags, and he'd hand out dog tags and have them come back to our booth. So you know what I mean? Like there are some kids out there still that are very much interested in you know, G.I. Joe and toys and comics, but ultimately the physical comic industry is definitely, you know, declining in terms of amounts. But you know what I mean? When all of a sudden, with the Skybound, you know, the now selling 100,000 or more issues per each one, like, you know, I mean, there is some kind of revival, you know, coming, I think, at a certain point. But ultimately, this next generation is just going to be a digital generation with everything. You know what I mean? They're going to, I got 50,000 digital comic books in my iPad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
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 So
It's always my greatest fear that somebody will show me their collection and it'll just be on the phone, and that's
Right.
Yeah.
no physical copy whatsoever. So
Yeah. That worries me because we're just one good hiccup away and we'll not have any printed material anymore. And I'd rather hold the physical copy in my hands than have a printed copy or a digital copy somewhere.
there's something much more visceral about the actual item in hand than there is looking at it on a screen.
You have the smell of the paper and everything, smell of the ink.
Yeah, it's an experience to read a book. It's not an experience to look at a screen.
Right.
I saw a really interesting article. So I don't know how much you guys have paid attention to the Star Wars and the Oracle TV show, but they're talking about that they might like pull that off of the streaming service. Well, without being able to buy a DVD or a VHS or, you know, download it to your phone or whatever like that, right? Like they can actually take these media away from us now. Like stuff on a streaming service, if you can't buy a DVD, like, and you can't access it through the streaming service, like how do we get this stuff anymore? I mean, it's literally, that was always the beautiful thing with, like, you know, a DVD or a Blu-ray or whatever, or a VHS. Like you had it in your hand, you can put it in your machine and watch it whenever you want. Like you can watch it wherever you want now on your tablet or your phone or whatever, but they can take it away. And I was like, holy shit, I hadn't thought of that. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know what I mean? Like a digital comic book that's only made digital and not printed is the same kind of thing. Like it can be taken away. And it's like, wow, that's crazy to think that, like, you know, like literally something that you want to watch, you can't watch because it's not even available. And it's like, oh, wow, that's a whole nother mess of a modern day problem world. You know what I mean? And of course, you know, like they edit it and change it. So which version are you watching? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, because like, you know, when you buy the physical video, that's the version, you know what I mean? But like now they can just change up whatever they want and put it back up there. You know what I mean? So it's very
do some editing, and they'll never notice what we did.
But somebody does.
Somebody does, yeah.
Look, they changed the color gradient for this image.
So give me a quick overview of how much time's left on the Kickstarter. Just give us all the information that people can
what's
find.
the update, Josh?
All right, so let me look on here. So we are currently, let's see here, refreshing. We are 28 days or 26 days. Our goal is 8,000. Right now we're about halfway. We shot up to about halfway within the first week, and now we're at 2 weeks in. So we're at $4,517, aiming for 8,000, hoping for 25,000. So we kind of stalled out a little bit, but that kind of happens in the middle of the campaign. So that's kind of normal. You know, obviously, you know, you can, you know, just Google G.I. Joe Transformers, you know, Kickstarter, and you'll find it. It's super easy to find. You know, After Action Report, and you can find it and see all our Kickstarters. So, you know, we're halfway there. We still have a month to go. So we do need more backers. Of course, we want to get there. So, you know, helpful being on podcasts and everything. You know, basically right now the book is 114 pages. It's 8 by 11. Perfect bound binding. I'm reading from my own website here. So we do have one other, actually, I haven't talked about this yet. So Print Ninja has a thing. It's called French folds, which is a new feature that will be on the book. Where on the inside cover and the backside cover, it's a fold, so you can like put it in there and mark your spot in the book.
That's cool.
So and of course, as a guidebook, you want to track your collection. So that's something new that we're a new feature that we're going to have in this book that's not been in a previous After Action Report book. Of course, it's all color. But the big joke that I like to make now is that, our After Action Report books are not intended to be near mint. So don't keep them in the bag and with the board and, you know what I mean? Like, bring it out and write in it. One of the interesting things we did with Volume 1 was that when the very first proof copy came in, Roger got out like a Sharpie and highlighters and all kinds of different pens and markers and figured out which was the best way to write in the book. Oh my God, like you're not supposed to write in a book. Well, this book you're supposed to. So use and abuse it. Don't keep it in a shelf in a bag. And that's really what all of our books are really about. I mean, the Command Files character guidebook isn't really checklist, but you certainly can make notes in there, and there's a few little spots. But like the comic guidebooks, they're intended to be written in. So
sure. But if
drag it with you to conventions.
If you want to make a copy, you got to buy 2.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Which is one of the rewards you can get 2.
Awesome.
So,
well, you would definitely have one more before the day's up, because I will get in on this.
Excellent.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. And to all your viewers, as we've talked about, even if you're a toy guy, getting the comics and these books about, G.I. Joe comics and learning about the characters and everything, like it's a big part of our community. And, so if you're a toy guy, you can be converted to a comic fan and still be a toy guy.
Easily. If I just want to ask one more question, other than Joe, what would you, if you're going to do this for a different comic, what would you want it to be?
Obviously, Transformers is the next one. That's. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this checklist if we weren't planning on doing a Transformer book ultimately. But yeah, there's plenty of others. Josh, you want to do Star Wars, right?
I want to do the Marvels, the 70s into 80s Marvel Star Wars.
Yeah. So there's plenty of other stuff. It's just it has to have a decent fandom behind it, and it has to have something we're interested in it. So it's not. I don't want to do Spider-Man because I don't read Spider-Man, and I don't have the 60 years of Spider-Man.
Right. Yes.
But you can't fit that into a 150-page book. So
let me make a suggestion.
Okay.
Detective Comics.
Little too big.
Yeah, that might be a little large.
Yeah.
You can make it a coffee book table or book.
You could make a coffee table out of it.
That would be bigger than Carson's book.
Yeah, it would.
It would be. But Roger does have an idea of a kind of a combined book of all the different little Hasbro properties, like the masks and all those, the smaller toy lines that had just 10, 12 issues kind of thing, to do a book like that of all those like 80s properties, comics, the comic books, of course, not for the toys. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the whole list is. Roger can probably rattle that off, but that's something that we could potentially do.
That would be cool. You could do Visionaries. I think Visionaries had a comic.
Yep. Yeah.
And Mask.
Narrators, all sorts of them.
Yeah.
Even Battle Beast had a comic, but that one's really hard to find.
That would be cool. That would actually be really cool.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on today. Like I said, it was a pleasure. I've been a fan for a few years now. Sorry I missed your panel, but I didn't know when it was.
That's okay.
Or else I would have been there.
That's the thing with Joe Fest now, that they're talking about putting the panel in all the panels in the big rooms and having a way more formalized schedule, like a lot of conventions. I think Joe Fest has always kind of had the like ad hoc, like in that little room there. You know what I mean? And now I think this next Joe Fest, like it'll be real panels in a real room without all the with all the AV problems and stuff like that. Although Carson has been amazing in solving AV problems for Joe Fest, but hopefully he won't have to do that in the next one.
No matter how good he is at AV, you can't overcome the lobby swap in the same room.
No, you can't.
Exactly.
That is an issue.
Yeah,
That's the big thing missing from Joe Fest is just scheduling. It needs to clarify when things are going to happen and where. Like I wanted to enter the custom contest this year. I didn't even know where it was taking place, so I never entered it. I didn't know if it was taking place.
And I think they'll get there. I mean, it's such a great experience. I think you'll get there with, the schedules and all that. So
I didn't even know there was a custom contest, or I'd have got in on
just
that.
a little more organization. There was last year, but I won 3rd place, but I was one of only 3 entries. So
guaranteed top
kind
3.
of automatic. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Please check out After Action Report. I do have the first one. You will not be disappointed. And get in on this Kickstarter. Let's get them their goals. All right.
Thank
Take
you
care,
all.
everybody.
Yo, Joe, and roll out.